Are your opponents giving you the slip? Are they catching you by surprise, causing you to smash your keyboard in frustration? Then you need to get better at predicting your opponents, and you should probably get a new keyboard. In this video, we'll teach you everything you need to know to keep an eye on your opponent, track their movements across the map, and predict their every strategy in the heat of battle. Follow these tips and you're guaranteed to get more victory royales in the near future. Are you making this deadly mistake? Let's find out. Do you instantly fire when you see an opponent? Do you ever try to break through your opponent's walls? When you're building, are you only doing it to block your opponent from damaging you? These are all symptoms of that deadly tunnel vision. If you do this, you're probably only focusing on what is immediately in front of you, which can stop you from reaching your full potential. But don't worry, we have the perfect solution. But first, no more resigning to defeat. Picture yourself rising through the ranks, outsmarting opponents with every move, all because you chose to take the leap with ProGuides.com. Click the link below for your golden ticket to victory. Instant access to powerful guides, advanced lessons, and exclusive 10% off coaching with real Fortnite pros. So what's the secret cure to tunnel vision? Well, if you want to outplay your opponent, you're going to need to practice a bit of patience. Yes, that's right. Patience. But how do you practice it? Do you simply wait before making a move? What if this is the moment that you should be rushing your opponent? Taking a moment to observe your opponent and the ability to make good decisions with the information that you have can improve your chances of winning fights. You're not just giving your opponent more time to make a move, you're using this time to assess their skill level, their position, what weapons they seem to have, and even the direction they plan to move during the fight. Combined with some training strategies and essential knowledge that we'll talk about in just a moment, you'll become an unstoppable beast. But before that, here's a strategy you can start using instantly. One thing you can try doing is playing slower. If there's no clear opportunity to instantly win the fight, playing slower helps you concentrate on your opponent's movements, which makes them easier to predict. This is a tactic many pros use when they want to get a better read of a situation and can lead to the perfect opening that ends fights. Now let's make life and predictions easier for you. One of the most reliable tactics you could use to read your opponents is pushing them towards making predictable movements. Think of it as corralling them where you want them. Use your first shot accuracy to go for the headshot whenever you can. If you could just pop your opponent's shield, then you can make them panic and go on the defensive. How many times have you had your shields cracked? What did you do? Did you instantly try to box up and pop some heals? Or maybe you made a mad dash towards the closest building in the opposite direction. Regardless of your skill level, if a shield breaks, a good chunk of the player base will react in this manner. If you can predict this, then you can exploit their thought process. If they run away, then chances are they are a noob with no confidence in their building skills. If the player tries to dash into a building, then there's a chance that they're simply low on mats since they didn't make a box. Now, if they boxed up properly and try to heal, then that player might have a better understanding of box fighting or just building in general, even if they don't start building for the high ground instantly. Learn to read different opponents, and even if your predictions aren't 100% accurate, you still have a better read of your opponent than before. So how do you predict players when you're taking fire? Some players build like crazy, making it almost impossible for less skilled players to take them down. Other players will try to bait you into using up all of your ammo before then unleashing their bullets on you. These players tend to strafe or set up walls. Regardless, even in combat, there is plenty of information that you can get simply by paying attention and taking your time. How much of their clip has their opponent used up? What's the fire rate of your opponent's weapon? Is your opponent trying to box you in, or are they simply trying to just W key you by rushing? Here are some openings to look out for. If your opponent starts spraying their weapon, be patient and wait for them to at least use up half of their clip. If you start retaliating at the halfway point, odds are your opponent will have to reload before you do or switch weapons. Regardless, these seconds lost will cost them health, and if they try to block with a wall, they still have at least one empty weapon that they're going to need to take care of. Now, if your opponent is trying to W key by rushing you, odds are they're trying to psych you out with aggression. In these cases, dragging the fight out will force them to play slower, which can reverse the roles. Now, you are the one putting pressure on a player who expected a fast fight. But what if your opponent is far away? What then? Well, we have some thoughts on that. But first, time to answer some more questions. For our first round, we have IsaKing50 who asks, what's better, claw or paddles? Now, claw and paddles are both good for being more efficient as a player. However, paddles are designed to be used by your excess fingers so it can be more comfortable and even put less strain on your hands.
It's really up to your preference, but most pro players actually have a leaning towards claw. So if you have to prioritize one, try learning claw. Side note, paddles can be a lot more expensive. We got another question coming later in the video, so don't go away. Now back to the lesson.
Here's the scenario. You got your sniper directly on your opponent and they haven't seen you yet, but you're confident you can get a hit on them. Before you shoot your shot, what direction are they headed in? Are they going deeper into the POI or are they on their way out? How close are the surrounding buildings? If they're exiting a POI, give them a few moments for them to leave the cover of the tall buildings. Then lay fire on them when they're out in the open. This prevents them from getting behind cover, healing, and then coming up with a way to come at you or flee. Their only choice now will be to out-snipe you, or to box up, or to run. Another great way to land more sniper shots is to wait until your opponent stops to loot. This pretty much guarantees a few extra seconds of where your opponent is standing still, allowing the shot to have more chances of hitting its mark. So, what do you do if your opponent does see you? Can you still snipe them successfully? Really, it depends, but one of Fortnite's more recent additions to the game makes predicting this much easier. Thanks to the sniper glare, you can tell when an opponent is aiming at you with a sniper. Same goes for your opponent. The key difference is going to be skill and decision making. If you see the sniper glare coming from your opponent, then they probably intend to outsnipe you. Now is the time for cover. But if they don't have the glare, then they might not even have a sniper in hand. Of course, if they hunker down to box, your sniper might not even do the trick because of its fire rate, which usually means it's time to close in using rotational items. Reading your opponents is a very valuable skill, but it comes in handy the most during fights that involve building and editing. This will tell you when to open a peek, when to reset and edit, and which wall you should be taking first. Here's a few things to keep an eye out for. Does your opponent have a cone in his box? Is your opponent hugging the wall closest to you, or is he further back? Does your opponent have their blueprints out? And which wall are they leaving unattended? If you need a better view, smack their builds to improve visibility to see all of their potential options. In fact, this is why piece control was invented. Your opponent can edit all they want, but if you claim their walls, then it limits their choices, thus making them easier to predict. Same strategy as before, but now using builds. So now let's train. Tips will get you far, but raw experience will get you dubs, especially when using piece control. Here's what we recommend. One great way of improving your ability to read opponents is to focus on 1v1s and creative. 1v1s can help you improve a variety of different skills, including aim, decision making, and piece control. But for now, focus entirely on your opponent's movements and decisions. Why did they box when they did? Why did they choose now to start firing at you? When you started attacking their box, how did they respond? Did they pull out their blueprints to start editing, or did they take positions to fire? Eventually, you'll be able to read your sparring buddy and make smarter decisions in the middle of a fight. However, how do you plan to do this if you can't 1v1 every single player in existence? Well, there is a trick you can use, and thanks to your practice during the 1v1s, it'll help you out. VOD reviewing is great. It not only lets you see your own decisions and mistakes, but also lets you see what your opponent did to get the better of you. While VOD reviewing, you'll notice that some players will attempt to use similar moves, such as cranking 90s in a specific way or resetting an edit after baiting you into attack mode. This is because, despite how different we all are, more experienced players tend to gravitate towards tricks that are known to work. So, the more tricks you learn, the better you'll be at recognizing when a player is about to use them against you. Now all you need to do is counter it. Next, we'll show you how you can track opponents on the map.
Now for our second question. Try Magic asks, does an Ethernet cable improve performance for PC? And if so, by how much? The answer to this is yes. It does improve performance since you have a more direct connection to the internet. You should see less ping, and you won't have to worry about Wi-Fi interference. However, before you undust an old Ethernet cable, we also recommend you check out the CAT number. CAT 5 and CAT 6 are commonly used, though many gamers have a preference for 6, and the higher the number, the faster the cable. Just don't go overkill with it, and check what speeds your internet provider is giving you.
If you like the tips so far, click on the link and check out ProGuides.com's more advanced tutorials. Do you want more eliminations per game? Then here's a lesson in predictions that will help you find enemies no matter how far away they are. When you drop from the bus, make sure to check the bus's path. Most of the time, a good majority of players will land at whichever POI is closest to the path. Everything further away will have less players at the very end of the path. Only the players who went AFK in the lobby will drop. And while this seems basic, knowing this will work wonders for you the moment the storm starts to close in. If you know where your opponents are likely to be at the start of the match, then you can predict predict which paths they'll most likely take as they try to keep up with the storm. During the mid-game, most players are trying to build up their arsenal, which means visiting different POIs on the path towards the storm's circle. Use this information to cut your opponents off before they reach their destination. This way, you can be ready for them when they approach and you can get some free limbs, just like shooting fish in a barrel. Finally, during endgame, there's always going to be players fighting each other and others simply trying to keep their backs to the storm to prevent players from sneaking up on them. Sometimes Fortnite players can be that predictable. So next time you're having trouble predicting your opponents, remember these tips and let them help you show off that victory crown.